art of wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, or drive to wherever you're going on this Thanksgiving weekend. Enjoying being with your family and friends. Maybe enjoying is not necessarily the word, but what you can do is enjoy this podcast, The Art of Wrestling, a professional wrestling podcast. It's a life podcast. It's personal journalists and entry way into the minds, the souls, the hearts, and the lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I am a man who will be enjoying Thanksgiving with my family. I'm a man who will try to keep the carbs low this year. Did it last year, still working on doing it this year. Most importantly, though, I am a professional wrestler, and I am sitting here live in the studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. Before we go any further, this is a fan sport and listener supported podcast supported by people just like you. Give it to you free of charge every single Thursday. ColtCabana.com, SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts from. A couple great ways to support, rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Tell a friend. Let somebody know that you enjoy this show, and they will enjoy this show too. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You get the idea. Best way to support, though, ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. T-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, digital downloads, premium podcasts. Up now, I got some new shit. I got 5 new things, 3 new shirts, including an eye Christmas tree Colt, eye smiley face Colt, and keychains, adorable keychains from Mexico that I got made so you can have and hang on your Christmas tree. Great, what's that called, an ornament? Here comes the Jew talking. An ornament? You can hang it on your Christmas tree. It's a tenner. Matte Classic and Colt Cabana. That's available. ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. All right, Bobby Roode is on the show this week, and Bobby is a guy who I have known for a long, long time. Would I say we're the bestest of friends? No, I think we hang out in different circles, mainly because he's been in TNA for 15,000 years. But he was a guy, I want to say I was on shows with him before TNA, and I also want to say I was on shows with him early in his TNA career, including some weird, obscure shows. I talk about how we shared maybe I didn't talk about it, I don't remember. We shared a hotel room once. I remember splitting a pizza with him. That's a weird fact that you just remember. And then we also did a weird show in Puerto Rico together. One of the weirdest shows ever, but those are the most fun shows. The weird shows. That's like the heart of the independent wrestling show, the weird show. So I have known Bobby for a long time, and what I really, really like about this conversation, Bobby Roode is not the most outgoing person in the world. I think he'll be the first to tell you that. He's very laid back. He's very relaxed. I get him to chuckle a couple times, which I'm very proud of. But what I realized is that a lot of us use the same things to drive us moving forward, except I have a podcast that I've been doing it on for a long time now, and I have an open platform that I have that I'm allowed to drive my thoughts. Some people don't have those platforms, so some people's opinions, thoughts, shit that gets them going isn't really out there to the world, especially each week, and I realize that I catch some flack, maybe always talking about a certain subject. But I really think in the last couple of years, I very much move away from that. It's not really the driving force in my career anymore. But there's things in my career that a lot of people have the same situation about, and you're never going to be an underdog unless you have somebody telling you no. And maybe at this point in everyone's career, everybody's an underdog, because at one point, everybody has told somebody no. Luckily, I had more ears listening to my story, as opposed to Bobby, who's on TV, and his outlet, his place to do it has always, for the most part, been Impact Wrestling, and it's scripted and it's produced. Not a bad thing, but that's in the world of professional wrestling, the glitz and the glamour of it. Whereas my main thing is an unscripted, unproduced thing, just me talking into a microphone, hoping that people will listen and understand my story. So I think that's what I mostly took away from this convo with Bobby, and you'll dig it. It is Thanksgiving. It's the 1-year anniversary when shit hit the fan, and maybe you want to go back and listen to that punk episode again, just to remind you of what Thanksgiving is for you. It's the 1-year anniversary of when the Midroll and the Earwolf guys and Dane Miller, most importantly, helped piece this podcast back together. I know we lost a lot of subscribers because the whole fucking thing crashed, but I'm very grateful for those of you who are back on board and easily enough just hit subscribe once again. And it reminds me of Thanksgiving. That's something that will always remind me of my Thanksgiving in the past, is that podcast that we did But of course, it reminds me to be thankful. I don't know if thankful is the word, but you think of Thanksgiving, and I'm grateful. I am grateful for the career that I have, for the friends that I have, for the situation that I'm in, for the fans that I have, for the people who support me, for the people who just watch my stuff or listen to my stuff. Or a lot of it has been the people that I can inspire that have now gone and done stuff on their own. I always think that's a cool story that I really enjoy, and that's happened a lot. People were like, oh shit, look what Colt did. I didn't realize you could do that. I thought somebody had to piggyback you into whatever you want, and I saw what Colt was doing whatever he wanted to do on his own, and I went forward and I did that. So I'm thankful for those people who I hear those stories from, and it keeps me going and it keeps me motivated. By the time you do hear this, Black Friday or Black Wednesday or Black Ass Wednesday is up, so people are shopping. Go get some fun stuff. Pro Wrestling Tees obviously has 20% off. It's going to be crazy. Go there, grab some stuff. Colt merch is up. Like I said, I got those new keychains and some Wrestle-Roos and some new t-shirts. Maybe grab something. I usually put holiday cards in your orders, free autographs. I will do that, of course, this year. I have a bunch left from last year, so I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, last week I was in New Jersey for 2 shows for Pro Wrestling Syndicate. When I upload it this night, Marty and I will have done a sold-out show at Cards Against Humanity. And this weekend, I'm going to WrestleCade, where I think there's 18,000 wrestlers. That's going to be exciting. Also, Beyond Wrestling. So have a good Thanksgiving. Enjoy my talk with Bobby Roode, and I'll see you on the other end of that conversation. But before we go to all of that, of course, Song of the Week is brought to you by DraftKings.com. Football season marches on, and while your season-long fantasy team might be going nowhere fast, sorry about that, every week is a new shot for glory at DraftKings.com. DraftKings is the destination for 1 week fantasy football where you can relive the fantasy draft and play for huge prizes each and every week. Hey, challenge your friends in a custom league or join an existing one to play for your share of the $1 billion in prizes up for grabs this year. Just pick your contest, draft your players, and collect your winnings. It's that easy. Renew old rivalries or create new ones by going head-to-head with friends, colleagues, and fantasy players from all over the country. DraftKings is crowning a new millionaire every week this season. You could be next, but only if you play. This is the big time. It's DraftKings. Use my promo code WRESTLE and play for free with your first deposit in Sunday's $1 million fantasy football contest. First place takes home $100,000, not the candy bar. Money! Enter the code WRESTLE for free entry now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com. Song of the Week now was brought to my attention by @OutlawJamboree on Twitter. I had never heard this one. I've been doing this over 5 years. You know that very well. I don't know how I never got my hands on this song or it wasn't brought to my attention. Larry Zbyszko sings? Did you know this? I have never heard a song with Larry Zbyszko as the singer. It doesn't surprise me, but I had never heard it. Now I have. Boo on Me is the song. Enjoy it, and we'll be back with Bobby Roode.
I'm the man that you all love to hate. So come on, everybody. I know you just can't wait. The boo on me, the boo on me, the boo on me. I made you cry. Oh, and I made you see red. That's what he said. When I picked up a chair, I hit some old man on the head. Come on, boo on me, boo on me.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, we're also brought to you by Topps and Topps Huddle. I grew up on Topps. Topps cards. Football cards. I had football cards. Art Monk, Redskins card. I had it. Eric Dickerson on the Rams, last name was Dickerson. I had it. It was funny to me when I was a kid. Gilbert Brown from the Packers, I think he ate 12 hamburgers at one time. I had his card too. And now Topps has brought the world of trading cards to digital. Topps Huddle features officially licensed NFL digital cards. Fans can collect cards of their favorite players from their favorite teams. Watch your collection grow by opening packs and making trades with other users. The Topps app, it does so much more though. You can play cards and earn points in real time. Daily fantasy style games based on how players perform on game day. Over 300 million Topps digital packs have been opened since 2012. You might as well open up some more. For football and especially football fans, this app is a must-have. Download it for free in the App Store or Google Play and get 10 free packs today. Again, that's Topps in the App Store or go check them out at Topps.com.
Hey, Bobby.
What's up, Colt?
Roo. Bobby Roo.
Bobby Roo?
Has that gotten to you?
No, not really. I think JB started that, right?
Yeah. Is that a real thing? Like,
no, I think he actually says Roode, but I think he's just too lazy to get that D in there in the end. I don't know.
Is that what he...
Maybe he thinks my name's Bobby Roo. I don't know.
I don't know. I enjoy it.
Like kangaroo? I don't know.
It's I think it's enjoyable what like things like, especially the internet, like what becomes a meme or what becomes a thing or what takes off.
Yeah, it's crazy nowadays, right? With all that stuff.
Yeah. And so that's your little...
That's my thing.
That's your slice of the pie.
That's it. Yeah. Happy to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know you're not like... I think I said to Eric, I was like, hey, what's Bobby's Facebook? And he's like, oh, he doesn't have anything. He called you, and I don't know. I'm going to call him out on it. Yeah. Quote, unquote. He said you were a Neanderthal.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that. I just don't like to...
How do you like to take to that?
I mean, I'll take it from him. But,
right.
Just I kind of laugh everything off that he says, but no Facebook, no Instagram. And the only reason why I actually got a Twitter account was because Dixie Carter forced me into it. I was actually driving somewhere in Texas by myself doing a house show loop, and she called me and begged me to get a Twitter account. I was actually thinking about getting a Twitter account anyway, because everybody was doing it. Yeah.
Hun, why don't you tweet one out for us?
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry, Dixie, I don't have a Twitter.
It kind of went that way, and then that was the first thing, I think. I'm trying to remember, but then she actually did call me, and she said, we really would like it if you got a Twitter account like everybody else so we can get you on social media, and which is cool,
But it's... So I'm really weird, and like, we're probably two opposite sides of the spectrum. Is like, I don't like, so I work for like Noah now, and now like they just started being like, hey, can you tweet this? Can you tweet that? And I'm like I don't want anyone telling me what to tweet, kind of.
I'm with you.
So it's almost like the best plan if you just don't have anything.
Yeah.
That way you can't get heat.
That's right.
That's a real thing.
It is.
Like people will get heat from their jobs for not tweeting out.
It's happened. I've had to have reminders, quote unquote reminders, to tweet about certain things and shows, and
Do you see people like, because I'm not really in a promotion, but do you see people getting like D pushes for not?
I don't know. I don't see it yet, but I mean, obviously, with Twitter, that's the only thing I really know. So
I guess I'm talking to the wrong guy about this.
Yeah, you're totally. But with Twitter, I think, it's obviously as soon as you hit that button, those 140 characters go out there to the world, right? So, but I guess you could delete it, I guess, if you had to. But people see that stuff.
I don't mean necessarily if you say something stupid, because obviously, but I'm saying like if Dixie's like, can you tweet this, and someone's like, nope.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I guess I don't want to put it all on Dixie, but just like man.
Yeah, the guy who sends out the requests.
Right.
I'm sure you could get some heat there. And,
like that's a thing. I think
that's a thing. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
That's a thing.
So I've been thinking about like, I guess the thought about you coming in here, like a lot of it was, and I think about this a lot for myself, and so I kind of want to get in your head. I guess I don't, know what's in your head so much, but almost the longevity of like you and me, and like I've been thinking a lot about like, so I'll like think about like the young guys who are upstarting, and then I was like, oh yeah, I was that once, and then there's like, oh wait, but then I've also been doing this like, this is 16, 17 years for me. It's like, I don't know, like if you've thought about like how crazy that is, like sustaining a longevity in wrestling.
Yeah, it's crazy for me. Like I'm same. Like so I broke in '98, so. I'm plugged away for 6 or 7 years, but then like bam, out of nowhere, like there I was in TNA, and it's been like 12 years.
Yeah.
And where'd that time go? And, you're thinking back over the last 12 years, like what I've done and how the company's grown and how it's all the twists and turns to get to where it's at now. And it's wild because, you see the young guys come in to TNA, you know what I mean? Like the Zimas and the Jesse Godders and guys like that who are just kind of getting their feet wet, so to speak, in the company. That was me, but it doesn't seem like it's been that long.
12 years.
It
I was thinking about your stuff, man. Like,
yeah.
Like the reinventions, all the people you've done stuff with.
It's crazy, yeah.
And you still find a way to make yourself fresh.
Yeah, and that's the challenging part, right? But that's kind of the thing that makes me enjoy wrestling still and want to wrestle is because I want to I think one of the things that has helped me keep in this business for as long as I have is just adapting to different styles and being able to go out there and wrestle and have good matches with every different guy that's I've been in the ring with, from X Division guys to heavyweights. I mean, for a while there in TNA, they would bring in the new superstar, the new guy. I remember Rikishi coming in for 2 shows, and guess who got to wrestle on TV?
Yeah,
and that's and Booker T, his first 3 months in the business, not in the business, 3 months in TNA. I was his guy, it was just I was the guy that was always fed to these guys, which was cool at the time, because I got to learn so much, especially from Booker. But
wait, 12 years, I forget, but that's in you've seen all the ones that have come.
I've seen it. And it was funny because I did tweet out a picture of a cup, a big plastic cup that I got from, it must have been from the TNA office or something when I got it, and there was pictures of this must have been 2008 because it had a picture of James and I with beer money with our shirts on, and then it had Booker T, had Kevin Nash, had Joe. Who else was on it, man? Matt Morgan, Sting, the Dudleys, all these guys, and they're no longer there anymore.
Right.
It's crazy.
And there's still and you're still. I mean,
and I think I'm the only one left on the cup. AJ was on it. I don't even think EY at the time even made the cup, which I'm going to give to you. I'm going to give it to you. Yeah.
Were you one of the... and I want to get back and we'll get into all the origin stuff, but were you... I'm thinking Team Canada. Were you before Team Canada? Were you there?
No, I came in. I had a tryout. Scott D'Amore got me a tryout probably in 2003. So I wasn't there in 2002, not from the very beginning. 2004 is when I really started full-time there with Team Canada. Yeah, and I just kind of fell into it. It was all timing. D'Amore called me and asked me if I could come to Nashville for 2 pay-per-views, so I had to stay there for a week. I flew in on the Tuesday and was set to fly home on the Thursday. And I was filling in for Teddy Hart, I think. So I was like, oh, yeah. And at the time, I was, kind of getting down and out about wrestling. I was having some WWE tryouts, and I was just felt like I was spinning my wheels. And
good. This is the stuff I want to talk about.
Yeah, I was just really spinning my wheels. And I remember being at home, and I was like, I don't know if I care about this anymore. I care, but I'm to the point now I'm just too frustrated because I feel like, change your hair. Okay. Change your look. Okay. And it's just I'm still having these good matches, and the boys are saying, the guys that I'm having matches with, it's a great match, good game.
This is the WWE.
WWE, yeah, at the time, yeah. This is circa 99 to 2004, early 2004,
which was a total. I mean, for you and I, we understand that era, but I guess people think about it now, it's such a different world, that quote unquote that that wasn't even development, right? You can get signed off those matches, and people they were having these weird dark matches with unsigned talent all the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know I've got a good track record. Joey Ryan has a good track record, but I'd like to, I think Tyson Dukes is number 1 with the most velocity heat matches. Yeah,
and he was right with me.
I think you're right up there.
We would travel up. I mean, me and EY would travel. I remember him and I went from home in Toronto to Penn State. And it was a 13-hour drive. It was the night after it was the day of the Super Bowl. So we got there for the Monday Night Raw the next day, and it was an ice storm. I remember he opened up the door and took a bump on it was the best in the hotel parking lot the night before our Monday Night Raw tryout. And you know what? You do those drives, and you're not guaranteed anything.
Back then you're guaranteed $300.
Well, I was $250 and some good catering.
Right.
But you don't know if you're going there to be seen and hopefully get a match. But a lot of times you were just there and
Well, how did you? Because I looked at it. So back when I was doing those, I was full-time wrestling.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, like yeah, I would have loved to have a job, and had they seen me, and that's probably the main reason there.
Yeah.
But also, I looked at it as like a Monday, Tuesday booking.
Sure.
So, like, I would take the 8-hour drives by myself or the 9-hour drives because I could justify 500, maybe it was 250, 500 for the
It was 250. I remember because being in Canada, it was 250 in the US. And then in Canada, when they used to do the Canada shows, it was awesome because with the dollar change, I think it was Tim White that was giving out the money. Mm-hmm. Which is something they don't do now too. It's kind of bizarre, right? So they give you the payoff right there. You just go up and your name was on a sheet, and they'd say, "Remember Tim White saying, okay, well, how much would this be in? How much $250 in Canada? How's $500?" I was like, "That's perfect." Like just know there's a briefcase of hundreds in front of them. It's like, yeah, sure. 500 sounds totally fair.
Yeah. I think Sergeant Slaughter would, and Gurria would give them up.
Gurria would give, Gurria would, yeah. So those are fun. I mean, those are fun days. You learn a lot from them, right? I mean,
but did you see it as like these are days of work, or were you,
sure.
or you 100% like I'm trying to get this job?
Mostly, I wanted to get a job because there was a certain point where they kept asking me to come back. So I thought, there must be some interest there. But then after a while, it was just like, oh well, it's another $250 or whatever, So
they asked you to make the long drives, or
a lot of times I would call Tom Pritchard.
Okay.
And I would say, do you have anybody for like the super long drives? I wouldn't. I guess I would because so if I had somebody to drive with, like I've got in touch with EY or Tyson Dukes or one of those guys and be like, hey, I think they're coming to Buffalo, and they're doing Buffalo, Rochester. Do you want to see if we can get out? So I'd call Tom, and Tom would always be really cool with me because Tom really liked me.
Yeah.
I ended up doing a WWE camp with Tom in 2002.
Which was that one of the invites?
The second one, the invite in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember my trainer's girlfriend was there?
Who's that?
Her name was Adara James.
Yes, I think I do. Yeah, there was 4 girls and 2 I knew. Daphne was one of them, and April Hunter was another one, and there was 2 other ones that I had no clue who they were, but they were not very good.
Yeah, and I think she got like a lot. She wasn't very. I think she got a lot of heat.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't. I don't know. Do you know Danny Dominion? Who's my one of my trainers?
Yeah, I think so. I'm familiar with the name. Yeah, I'm sure I would see him. Yeah,
it was his girlfriend who he had trained. She had like came to the school. It's kind of funny how that works. So I was like, I must have been 21 or something at the time.
Yeah.
She came to the school, and I've been wrestling like all over.
Sure.
And then like he trained her, and she looked like great. I think she was a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then like 6 weeks later, she was at a tryout. I was like, oh man,
wow.
If I only had these sweet.
Yeah, she was pretty green. I remember the girls were like, oof, yeah. And you know what? That was the thing back then. Was like a couple guys I don't know. AJ got invited to the first one, I think, and Rene Dupree, who I was familiar with working in Canada, he got invited to the first one, got a job out of it. So the second one, I remember doing a dark match.
He was
Montreal.
13 at the time, right?
Yeah, I think he was 11.
He was 12.
But the second one I got invited to, I did a dark match in Montreal, and Johnny Ace came up to me and said, we'd like to send you to this camp. So I did the camp, and I remember there was a lot of green guys there.
Yeah.
And I remember Tom coming up to me and asking me if I would do all the drills, with one of the other guys from the Heartland Wrestling Les's group to kind of show everybody how to do it first. So, I started off on the right foot.
Right. Like, you were the example.
I was the example, and I had the most experience, I thought. So, and there was a lot of green guys, but I met a lot of cool guys. But where my point is here is like, I did that, and I did all of the drills first, and I had good matches, and there was a time when the agents came in on the Wednesday where you had to call your match in the ring, and I was able to do that. I was with Sean O'Hare, and I was able to call the match for Sean, who was already under contract.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking at the end of this, I go into this meeting, and they're like, would you come to Cincinnati and be under a developmental deal and make $500 a week? I was like, yes. That's sure. This is why I'm here.
Yeah.
And then
wait, they asked you that?
They asked me that. Never gave me anything. It was just like that, and this is like where I was getting to before. It's like in 2004 when Scott called me, I was like, why not? I'll go.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit anymore. And so I was so like I felt so beaten down by them.
Wait, hold on. Take me back to this whole thing because so they asked you if you'd be in.
They asked me, Kevin Kelly, and
were they like
Thatcher,
hypothetically?
Yes, basically hypothetically. Would you if we offered you a contract to come down to stay here in Cincinnati, would you relocate and come here and be under contract with WWE?
And then after that conversation,
nothing.
Just
nothing. I called Tom. Of course, I followed up on it, and I called Tom Pritchard, and he's like, they have nothing for you. Like the creatively, there's nothing there.
Well, I've heard that line before.
I mean, that's the popular line, but that's the shoot. I mean, that's what they tell people, you know. And I mean, maybe things have changed there now. Obviously, the whole landscape up there has kind of changed now. They don't even bring guys in for dark matches anymore, I don't think. And I mean, at the time, you could go in and you could change in the same locker room as all the other guys. And I heard that stopped. You know, they made
I think that stopped a long time ago.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's, you know, one dummy ruins that for everybody.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when you're not the dummy and you go in there, you feel like a piece of shit because...
Yeah.
Some asshole, you know, you're a pro, you do the job right.
Yeah.
You're just not with them.
Right.
And then you feel like a schmuck because you're in the closet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't there for those days, but I mean, that would have sucked even.
Yeah.
Right?
It was demeaning a little bit, but, you know, a wake up call. And maybe it makes you a little more hungry. Like, that's where I want to be in that locker room.
Yeah.
Where are you from, man? Let's start kind of.
Born and raised, and actually still live in Peterborough, Ontario, which is about an hour northeast of Toronto, I guess, more east of Toronto.
Okay.
So kind of Ottawa way.
Small town or?
Small town, about 80,000 people. Yeah.
Well, that's not too small, is it?
No, but comparatively speaking, I mean, Toronto
go
was kind of expanded almost to Peterborough to where I live now. So, I don't know.
Would you go to Toronto for wrestling?
Yeah,
or?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is that like?
Oh, as a kid, you mean watching?
Yeah.
You know what? I never did. I wish I did. They would come to my hometown. They
Really?
would literally come twice a year. And my parents would we had a cool connection because the manager of the ice rink where they used to come all the time used to be friends with my dad, good friends with my dad. So he'd always say, well, they're coming. We'll put my sister would go and my mom and dad would go with me. We'd have 4 front row seats every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every time they came to town, now mind you, it was Peterborough. You know, at the time I think it was like 65,000 people. So it was definitely like a C crew.
I know, but that makes me smile almost. Like,
it was. You'd get one headliner. You know, Macho Man would be there one time. The next time would be
maybe
like
not even, right?
Yeah, but sometimes they'd always have one guy there. Like they'd always have. I remember Brett was there. Brett Nolan main evented.
Do you remember like who the next best was? It like?
Oh yeah.
Like Jim Powers, you know?
Jim Powers definitely made his trips to Peterborough. Who else was there? Gosh.
Like Tonga Kid, right?
The Killer Bees. I remember the Killer Bees
were
there.
big. Killer Bees were big in Peterborough.
Red Rooster was big in Peterborough too, yeah. Yeah. And there was definitely like the B and C groups.
Because I'm a Chicago guy, you know, so I went to the Horizon. I saw them all.
Yeah.
I can only imagine in the little towns.
Toronto would always have the big shows like Maple Leaf Gardens, right?
Right.
So like Hogan, I mean, they would always have. It was like the Canadian version of the Madison Square Garden.
But if your parents were like, well, they come. Why are we going to go to Toronto when they come here?
Exactly.
That was it.
That was it. I mean, and that was all it was. Right. Yeah, we're not going to make the hour and a half trek downtown Toronto to. When we can just literally, I was a 5-minute walk from the ice rink.
Nice.
I grew up, I was like a rink rat there. I was always down there skating and like, I knew everybody that worked there. And yeah. So, I mean, were
you a wrestling kid?
I was, yeah. I grew up playing hockey in Canada. I started playing hockey when I was like 4. So my first passion was obviously hockey, but wrestling was number 2 or close number 1.
Did you amateur wrestle?
No, I never did. I didn't do any wrestling in high school. Nothing. So just.
I mean, I didn't either, and I don't know if I find it weird, but there's like a big. I don't know. To me, there's a big difference of like pro wrestling that I loved on TV and amateur wrestling.
I was never an amateur wrestling fan. Yeah, no, it was always pro wrestling, and that's weird. I never thought of it back then. Like I would never sit and wait for Greco-Roman wrestling to come on, or but pro wrestling, WWE at the time. That's all I got to watch was WWE wrestling. There was no NWA. There was no Smoky Mountain. There was none of that.
Oh, really?
I couldn't watch any of that. So. We get WWE Challenge or WWF Challenge at the time. I think was on at 12 till 1, and then you'd get Maple Leaf Wrestling from 1 to 2, and then at 7 o'clock at night, Maple Leaf Wrestling would air another one.
What's Maple Leaf Wrestling?
Maple Leaf Wrestling it was a part of WWF, but it would be matches that were taped from where what was the name? The Gardens, the Maple Leaf Gardens.
Right.
Yeah. So that was where all the big shows were.
So they had their own channel, kind of like how the Madison Square Garden had their own channel, I guess?
Kind of, sort of. It was CHCH. This is funny how I remember all this. And it was a Hamilton station. Hamilton is like beside Toronto. So CHCH would always run Maple Leaf Wrestling, which was basically from Maple Leaf Gardens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. And so your sister, what was the family? Sorry.
My sister, I have a younger sister, and then my father and my mother, yeah. So just the four of us.
Were any of them wrestling people?
Not really. I think they just went because I wanted to go.
Were you in heavy, or were you...
What's that?
Like, were you a diehard wrestling fan kid?
I kind of was, yeah. I mean, I watched it every Saturday and Sunday. Every time it was on TV,
Do you remember what hooked you?
I really don't. I think it was just like...
You know, I think it's because, like, as I just sit here, as we both say, like, oh, we didn't like the amateur wrestling, but we like the professional. It really kind of says, like, oh, people like us are, like, the showmanship is, the entertainment is really... Because if you strip down that... You know, that's just amateur wrestling.
The characters and the entertainment value for sure. The character. I mean, obviously Hulk Hogan was the guy. Like, he was the reason why I was watching, because you know what I got to see on those like 1 hour Saturday shows. Like, Hogan would never wrestle.
Yeah,
but you would get a 5-minute promo with Mean Gene. You know, and that would hook me. And you'd see other decent.
They had it down, didn't they?
They did.
Wrestling's totally changed.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because I'm the same way. Yeah, we never saw Hulk. Like, if you saw Hulk wrestle, what a treat that was.
Oh yeah. I remember one time, and I tell the story a lot because I try to explain what this Maple Leaf Wrestling was. And I remember one of the best matches I ever saw was Tito Santana and Iron Mike Sharp from Maple Leaf Gardens, and it didn't even make the TV time. Like, they went off the air without a finish. And it was like a 20-minute match at the end of it started at like 7:40. It had one commercial, and it was awesome. But you'd never see guys like, even like Savage and, you know, even
treats, man. But it was different. It was different
British
business
Bulldogs.
model, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, back then it was.
Because the money was in the house shows, and they try to get you to come see them wrestle at the house shows.
Yep, that's right.
And now the money's in the ratings. Like comic books, He-Man, because I just breaking down like the idea that, like, I think that's why I like pro wrestling is because I like those characters. Yeah. But I was never into comic books.
Me either.
But I was a He-Man guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I never was.
Any of that stuff? Thundercats, G.I. Joe. I don't know.
No, I never collected any of that stuff. But man, I collected all those old WWF action figures. Well, I don't even know if they're action figures. They're like
the rubber.
Yeah, the rubber. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So man, I had a ton of those. Those are the only things I collected. I think one year at Christmas I got 18 of them.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember for Hanukkah I got 2 once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
18.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
I know. I don't know. I must have been good that year, I guess.
And I remember I also got it was like Captain Lou and Jimmy Hart.
Yep. I had Jimmy Hart and I know I didn't have Captain Lou. I had Jimmy Hart.
Imagine being a kid on like Hanukkah or Christmas, and you just get 2 managers, and you're like, yes.
Yeah.
And then like all they do is just sit outside your ring.
I had Mean Gene.
They don't do anything. Yeah.
I had Mean Gene. He would be in there for like a second, and then you take him out, right?
You want to get a sweet interview in it about the extent of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so where does wrestling come in? When do you get are you a jock and are you a hockey player in high school?
I was a hockey player all the way up till I was I played high school hockey, and I played pretty competitively for my hometown and like on a travel team. Mm-hmm. Played a little bit of lacrosse, but hockey was my number one sport. So I played that really competitively up until I was like 19 or 20. And then at that point I knew, like, I'm not going to be going anywhere in hockey. I'm not going to be doing that. And I never really wanted it. It sounds terrible. I went to school for a year to be a corrections officer. And I was like, this does not interest me at all. And I really don't know what I want to do with my life, but I want to be something that I enjoy, and I enjoy sports, and I love hockey, but I'm not going to make any money, but I love wrestling.
What was the corrections officer move? It was just like, I got to do something with it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Was it your parents, or was it?
No, it was me. So I had to feel like I had to do something, you know? So, and at the time,
in university, or
it was it was a college, like in town, like a community college, and they offered like police services, and there was correctional officer, there was customs officers and stuff like that, and you just kind of branch off and take one or the other. It was it's called law and security, right? It was the course at the time. I don't even know if that's even available anymore, but it was law and security, and then you kind of branch off. And I did corrections, which was a mistake because I felt at the time like, I started wrestling training, so my mind and my focus was totally on wrestling training. So and then to me, like corrections, and I could be totally off on this, but it just felt like I was a glorified babysitter for like bad people.
Right.
You know, I just couldn't. I don't think I could sit there and
like you figured
walk
that
them
out
and feed them, and
you figured that out as you were
I figured that
halfway
out.
through
Like
that?
I was like, yeah. And I mean, I got a year in. It was a 2-year course, and I got a year in. Maybe like 6 months, and I was like, this is not for me.
Did you go in like I'm going to save the world, and then halfway through you figure out
this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So that, but luckily, I mean, I was training in wrestling, and when I say training, like I picked up on it, everything like really fast, and I was a bit of a natural at it, thank God. And then like I started training in like March or April of '98, and I had my first match in like June, and then I just kind of took off from there. It was just
I'm
crazy.
the same way.
Yeah,
I was April '99.
Yeah,
and my first match was June.
Yep.
And I don't know how you were, because I was, so I mean, maybe tell me like if it's the same way. It's like I was going to training every day. It was 3 or 4 weeks of training. I'd always go help the rings with the shows, and then one day they were like, "Hey, we need this masked guy." It was like the ultimate masked scrub move, but like, hey,
Right.
and then I did well, and they're like, "Oh, you can be on the next show."
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of weird because I guess I first started training a little earlier than that. I started training with Val Venus, Sean Morley, who was a friend of mine. He lived just like 10 minutes from me. So I met him at a gym, and we kind of went back and forth. I knew who he kind of was. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I got a ring in the back of my backyard." I was like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Yeah, come on out." So I went out there.
Was he on TV at this time?
No, he was coming. He was in Puerto Rico, Japan, and he was just got signed by WWE. So this is like '97.
Okay. Wait,
So,
I'm going to take you back a little bit. So you're like, I want to get into wrestling at this point?
At this point, I'm like...
And you're like, who do I find? How do I find somebody?
Yeah. And at the time, I was looking like a WCW power plant. Like at the time, WCW was on at like 6 o'clock at night on Saturdays. And they always used to advertise the power plant. And I told my dad, I was like, I got to go there. I want to do this. And he was like, he kind of laughed it off.
I know a guy who's going to be a porn star on WTV in a couple years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways...
So where do you find Val?
Found Val at a gym. We worked at the same gym at the time.
So like you wanted to be you were thinking the power plant.
Yeah.
But also that somebody was like, hey, that guy's a wrestler?
Yeah. No, and I knew who he was because I think he was in the paper, like at the local paper.
Nice.
So then I saw him at the gym, and we just kind of hit it off, started talking, and then I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about getting into wrestling. He's like, well, I got my brother comes in and trains with me in my ring in my backyard, and like, why don't you get a ring?
Yeah.
So I went out there and literally like, I went out. Do you remember the Maestro from WCW?
Of course.
Gorgeous
Of
George.
course.
So his name's Rob. So he was there. He was with Val at the time at his house. And
He's
for whatever
from North
reason.
Carolina.
Yeah, I know, but they were buddies from Puerto Rico. So I think he just came up and hung out with Sean for a couple of days. So I went out there and I watched them work out, and I got in there and I kind of did some stuff with Sean. And like right from that minute, like from the moment I locked up and got inside the ring, and like I was hooked, and I was like, man, I got to do this. I got to learn. And
Did
Sean,
he charge you like $2?
He never charges
or
me
anything?
nothing.
It's so weird.
Sean charged me absolutely nothing. I mean, I went into his house maybe twice, and it wasn't like formal training. It wasn't like okay, we're going to do rolls. It was just like, all right, this is how you lock up. This is how you hit the ropes, And then Sean took off. I think he went back down to Mexico at the time. That's right before Japan.
With that ring?
His brother, his brother had it. No, I think they lived on a big property, but I think his brother has it, or he sold it at the time. But it stayed around for a while. But after that, Sean took off, so I didn't really have anywhere to go, and I was still kind of. At the time, I was in school, so I was kind of looking for a place to train. I wasn't, I was kind of getting down about it because I didn't know where to go. I'd have to move, and my school, like what now? But luckily, Shane Sewell was in Peterborough. And Shane was partners with Sean in Puerto Rico.
Who's the glamour boy?
The glamour boy.
Who's
Shane,
one of the most underrated wrestlers, like
one of the
ever,
best
right?
wrestlers. I mean, and if you go to Puerto Rico and he's walking on the street, he's like God. He's like Ric Flair.
I got to wrestle in Puerto Rico.
Did you really? Yeah.
It was such a treat. It was also
he's amazing.
In TN, one of the most I don't know, I don't watch it to like an obsession.
Yeah.
But one of the most underrated things in TNA.
Yeah.
A guy who just went from nothing and made like this amazing.
Yeah.
Really took chicken shit.
Yeah.
And made chicken salad out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I started, and him and I worked at a bar together. I was at nights. I bounced at a bar, and he was there too. And his wife was an assistant manager of the club. So we hit it off, and he's like, "I'll train you, but you just got to find a ring." So we did some research, and I looked around, and he looked around, and he ended up getting connected with a guy in Hamilton, which was like a 2.5 hour drive for us. But he said, I'll go with you and I'll train you. So I paid him like $200. and him and he took my car and we drove up together every Sunday.
I don't think it's the money. It's this guy's like willing to just drive with you
because he still loved wrestling.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, he still loved wrestling, and he wanted to be in wrestling, but his wife had him kind of like, at the time they're not married anymore, but like had him kind of at home, and they opened up a restaurant together.
Gotcha.
And so he was kind of like trying to settle down, but he still had that wrestling bug. So I think I helped him out a lot by doing it, but he loved it. So we started training, and it was just like every Sunday. It wasn't like every day it was like every Sunday. So I went maybe like 4 or 5 consecutive times, and then I had a match. So it was wild. It was weird.
I didn't know he had tried to get out of wrestling, because then after that he had like this 10-year run in Puerto Rico
He
again.
had a huge run. Yeah, he did.
He moved there.
Yep. So they ended up splitting up, him and his wife, and then he ended up moving to Puerto Rico. And so yeah, and then a year later, not even a year later, like I had 9 matches in, and he called me and he's like, "Do you want to come to Puerto Rico?" And I was like,
nice.
Yeah. So I went down there, and I was way too green.
Yeah.
And I think Hurricane George hit at the time, and like the whole island was destroyed, and they weren't drawing very well at the time, and it was way over my head. Like I was there for 7 days. I'm like, I got to get out. I want to go home.
Which is, and I'll get in touch on this in a second.
Yeah.
Which is, because you did the one, the territory of Puerto Rico, very young in your career.
Yes.
And like I know from a lot of my, Hughes and Kingman, that then you went and did the Real Action Wrestling.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
was the last dead territory, right?
It was, yeah. I worked for Emile Dupree first, so Renee's father, who was a legendary promoter in Eastern Canada. So I worked for him in 2000. So I mean, you know what it is. I mean, you go there you start at the end of May basically, and you run every single day, Monday through Sunday. And at the time, Emile ran 2 months straight at the time. So in 2000, 2 months straight. And then the year after that, he wasn't running, I don't think. And then that's when I got a call from Mike Hughes. And when I went back out there to the same territory, and we wrestled, man, that year, 2001, we wrestled, we started in June, and I think we went to like September, October. It was crazy.
So when you do 2 months every day, and then you do another 5 months every day, at this point, like, you're ready to leave your house? Do you have anything that you're leaving behind? Are you taking a sabbatical from any kind of job? Or
Yeah, no, I had a part-time job, but I was kind of like, I was working at a sports store. So, and I was kind of friends with the man. He was a family friend. So he knew what I was trying to do, and he supported me. So he just said, "Go. And then when you come back, just come back and see me, and we'll get you back on the schedule."
Well,
so
that's a good.
Yeah. So it was a good deal, man. And so I was finally like a professional wrestler full time, and got to learn a lot, just traveling around. Like that's where you learn, right? Is just being on the road and traveling around and trying to adapt to different crowds and different cities. And
who were the because you were the young guy, I guess.
Yep.
Were you the young guy? Were the other young guys?
No, I was the young guy. Well, Rene Dupree was with me the first year with his dad.
9 then?
Yeah, 6.5. Yeah. Still bigger than me. No, so I was definitely, when I was with Mike Hughes and Kingman for Real Action Wrestling, I was one of the younger guys. Yeah.
And so who are the the old guys?
The veterans?
Yeah.
The Canadian guy, I don't know if you'll be familiar with, but the Beast.
Mm-hmm. Well, I only know because those
Beast.
guys tell me the stories. The Beast.
The Beast. Yeah. The Beast. But I mean,
who was the one that fucking Big Pete loves? He has a name, but somebody else has the same name of him. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do, but you know what? All those Atlantic, there's a lot of guys that come from Calgary and that I didn't really know about, but a lot of old time guys. I'm trying to think who the names. Leo Burke.
Yeah,
Leo Burke.
He was wrestling?
He was not wrestling when I was there, but the year before he was.
Okay.
And Leo, of course, was the guy that trained Bret. Mm-hmm. Bret Hart.
And a legend in the
Canada remember my first year in the territory out there, the Cuban Assassin.
That's who it was, Cuban Assassin.
Yeah. And he has a son, Cuban Assassin too. I never met his son, but the Cuban Assassin, I lived with Cuban Assassin for like 7 weeks. It was just me and him in a little apartment.
Yeah.
And we had one lazy boy and a little tiny TV. I had an air mattress and he had a bed.
Yeah. But you don't give a fuck.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved every minute of it because he would cook. He would cook me food, and he was an awesome cook. So those are those were to me, and I tell everybody those are my college years for me. being able to wrestle and learn, like those are my college.
And what do you
years.
do? You're putting up the ring. Do you guys put up the ring?
My first year I went on. I didn't put up the ring, but I was on the ring truck. I didn't have to put up the ring, which I was pretty lucky, I guess. I've never been on ring crew. Not that I didn't want to be on ring crew. I felt like I was too good. I just was never asked.
Well, if you guys were doing, as they're coming for us over here, I don't know if that picks up on the mics. You guys are going each town to town to town. I assume it's all kind of shoestring budget stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Or is it not? Or is it giant productions?
No, shoestring budget. Yeah. The first year, especially for Emil. Emil was was very rich, but the cheapest man.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, very cheap. So
a man after my own heart.
this is in 2000, and he didn't like to play music for guys' entrances. And when he did, he had a ghetto blaster, and he'd put the microphone up. He put the microphone up to it like this.
Yeah.
Right at the speaker.
He's holding them. I'll do play-by-play.
Yeah, you got to do play-by-play. But he would hold the microphone up to the speaker of the ghetto blaster and put the tape deck in and play.
What was his?
It was like no lighting. The lights were on. Like if you were in a hockey arena, like every light was on. They wouldn't he wouldn't shut the lights down.
Give it any atmosphere.
Nothing.
What was the cheapness behind not wanting to play music?
He just didn't like it. He just didn't like it. And then,
do you have an Emil impression?
The only Emil impression, and you can't. You'd have to see it, but. I would drive in the vans after the shows with like Emil and the Beast and those guys, and of course they'd be drinking. And Emil would always sit in the front seat and the passenger seat. And at the time, Gary Williams, who was an older guy, he was a bit of a veteran.
I know Gary, of course.
Yeah. So Emil would always let Gary drive his van. Nobody else. Gary would have, because Gary was the best driver. But Emil, a song would come on, and the song would be playing, and he'd have his hand on the roof of the car, and he would just. Instead of like snapping your fingers or whatever, he would just scrape his knuckles.
Like a Guido.
Scrape his knuckles against the roof of the car while music was playing. That was his thing. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I usually I always, not that I feel for the Canadians, because I always say it's kind of hard for the Canadians to break out, and it's hard. Whereas I'm from Chicago, right? I can go to Minnesota. We, our crew when we were starting, we can go anywhere, and it's all within 10 hours. All these places,
right.
even the East Coast. And Canada, it seems to be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But you seem to have enough. You were working all the time. It didn't seem like a problem. Huh?
Yeah, no, I was really lucky. I didn't do a lot of stuff in the Toronto area, like where I lived. I didn't really do a lot of shots, and I never went out to Calgary. I didn't go west. I stayed mainly east, and I was fortunate enough to go out there for 3 years, and
there was enough work. Yeah,
there was enough work out there. Yeah, and I was getting paid too. I was getting paid pretty decent. And you know what they had out there, that little promotion did quite well. We had a little TV show, and so it was good.
And then I don't know, I don't know if I start, the older I get in my age, I don't know, who's listening to this, but the Super 8 used to be a really big thing.
Oh, in Nashville?
The ECWA.
Oh, the Super 8. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought you meant the hotel.
The hotel.
Yeah, that's where I used to stay. I lived there for a month.
That was a big thing, man.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Hell of a continental breakfast.
It was. Everybody. It was funny because everybody that did those Nashville pay-per-views, that's where we all stayed.
That was a known
There were
thing.
some crazy nights, yeah.
Well, that was
and
big.
odd mornings. But anyways, Super 8 wrestling, the tournament. Yeah, that was.
Would you say, would that be was that your
That was my breakout night.
Okay.
And the Jim I owe everything to Jim Kettner. I saw Jim not too long ago at a TNA house show in Delaware, and I was like, man, I owe you, because I was the first Canadian guy he brought in.
Really?
Yeah. And I wasn't, at the time, I was a little bigger than everybody else too. So, and Super 8 at the time was for kind of cruiserweight kind of guys. And he goes, well, I want to bring you in. And
who was in your year?
It was me, Red, AJ, Donovan Morgan, Pepper Parks, Jamie Noble. Charlie Haas was supposed to do it, but he got hurt, so Jamie Noble took his spot. And there's another name that
Donovan won that year, I think.
Donovan and AJ went to the finals.
Gotcha.
Donovan beat him, yeah.
Yeah.
I wrestled Red in the first round. We had a good match. Red went over, but that was kind of the whole deal.
Back then, it's such a different landscape.
Huge. Yeah.
If you get in that tournament, it was almost like you were a made man, right?
You were a made man, yeah. And
Did
really,
you see bookings come from that after?
Absolutely, yeah. And then I was in magazines, and I was ranked. I was. So yeah, it opened up all kinds of doors for me. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then I don't know. And then for 12 years.
And then for 12 years here, I've been with TNA Wrestling and
right. But
yeah.
I guess just on a little bit of before you got that call, like to what extent were you ready to? Did you start like moving on with your? Did you start thinking about game plans, thinking about backups?
I don't know. It's kind of blurry, but I think I probably must have, because I know that I was getting frustrated. I knew that like I couldn't keep going on the road and just keep showing up, and I felt like at the time that I was just being made a fool of, maybe a little bit.
In terms of
hey, come on back.
The WWE
stuff. And if I kept going back there and doing jobs and kept, not really going anywhere, would that affect me? I mean, will they really hire me after this?
Were you wrestling other places though?
I was just doing small independents, So I wasn't.
And you didn't see that as a means to an end or anything?
No, and like the territory in the East Coast was done. Like they weren't running anymore. So I knew that I couldn't go back out there and make any money at it, and it was either like make wrestling my full-time job or get another full-time job and get on with my life. Yeah. And for whatever reason, man, the stars aligned, and I got that phone call and went down to Nashville, and and it was only supposed to be for 2 weeks. That was it.
Yeah.
And I did the matches. I think it was like an 8-man tag, and then I think I had a singles match or a 3-way. I think that the second week, and like Jeff Jarrett was like, "We want to sign you. We want to give you a contract." And at the time, the funny thing, so this is a good story too. So at the time, I'm in Nashville, and this is all around the time where like WWE was like, I was talking to Tom Pritchard at the time. He's like, just be patient. I think something's going to happen. Just be patient. So I did a dark match, went home, nothing happened again. So, and that's when the call came from Scott to go to TNA. So I called Tom Pritchard and I said, TNA wants me to go down and do their pay-per-view. You think it's cool? Or do you, and he goes, well, let me call John Laurinaitis and let me see what he says. So he calls me back like 5 minutes later and he goes, John says it's okay, go do it. So I go do it, and then like I said, I had a great showing, and I had a lot of fun there, and he got sent home with a contract. And so I told Tom when I got back, I was like, I got offered a deal, and he's like, well, okay, well, just let me talk to Johnny. And they called me back, and they said, we want you to come to Raw and SmackDown. We're going to fly you to Chicago, do Rockford, Illinois, and Milwaukee. So they flew me down, rented me my car, got me at the TV hotel. Like they treated me like top notch, right? Because they wanted to, I guess apparently they thought that because I was going to sign, or I don't know what their thinking was at the time, but they wanted to have one more look at me. So I went down, and I ended up having a match with Matt Hardy on Velocity or something, and it was
Join
really,
the club.
It was a really good match. And even Matt went to Johnny and was like, yeah, he's good. He's good. You have a look at him and whatever. And then the next night I did a tag match. Went well, and ended up flying home Wednesday. Tom said, call me Thursday. So I called him Thursday. And at the time I still have the contract. I haven't signed the contract.
Yeah, are you
and Jeff's
out?
Really cool, right? Jeff's like, just go do your thing.
So they were okay with you doing that.
Jeff was like, just, figure it out, do your thing.
I'd freak out a little bit about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had it because Scott was kind of like the middleman. And I remember Edge was when I was up doing the WWE thing at that time. And he was there. He's like, why are you, and him and Jericho came over to me at the building in Rockford. He's like, why are you here? Like, well, they wanted me to come and have another tryout. He's like, well, did you not, what's going on with TNA? I said, well, they gave me a contract, but I just haven't signed it. They were like, get out of here. Like, go. They kept bringing you in. Anyway, so long story short.
They're like, we hate you.
Yeah, no, they didn't hate me, but they kind of like, they knew, like they saw me, right?
Right.
And every week, basically, it felt like I was there every week.
Yeah.
But, so no, I got home Wednesday, phoned Tom on Thursday, and Tom's like, yeah, we just, unfortunately, and he felt bad, but he's like, they just don't have anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, the excuse I always got from John Laurinaitis was, we have nothing for you, and you're too good for developmental.
Yeah.
So, go get over somewhere else and come back and see us. So I went and got over somewhere else, and I just haven't left.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you see it as kind of like, the way my mind works is like a little bit of I'll show you. Do you have a little I'll show you in there? Yeah.
Yeah, that pissed me off. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really did. It pissed me off. And I hated Johnny Ace for the longest time. I don't hate him anymore, but it was just like, I don't know. I felt like at the time, I felt like I deserved. Like I did everything he has asked me to. I showed that I had heart and passion, and man,
I feel we're very similar in that like I'm kind of the same. Like I had a lot of hatred for a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it's gone away over time.
Yeah.
And, like,
I don't hate anybody.
But I bet there's so many. Like I'm very much relating to you, but I bet there's so many people out there with the same story for that company, because that company can only take X amount of people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's so many things. I remember one time and it sticks out in my head. I was in Calgary. I had a friend that played pro lacrosse out in Calgary, so I had some air miles, so I was going to fly out to see him, but Raw was there. So I called Tom, and he's like, yeah, sure, you're going to be there. We'll get you booked.
500 Canadian bucks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I got out there, and I didn't have a match, which was fine. So you eat catering, you go to the second catering, you eat your chicken wings and get all those brownies and all the good stuff.
And if you're like me, you would grab some napkins and take a bunch of stuff home.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On the sly.
Yeah. So I'm sitting up in catering, and Chuck Palumbo comes up to me and he says, you and I have a match. And I was like, we do. As I'm eating chicken wings. And he's like, yeah, I think Harry Smith at the time was just young, but he was booked to do the match with Chuck, and he left. Which
if you know Harry now, it makes all the sense in the world.
Right. So I was the only guy there that could do this dark match, and so I went out there and had the match with Chuck. And remember, Sergeant Slaughter was the agent and came back. He goes, "That was really good." He goes, "Vince came over the headset and asked who you were." I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's cool." So then I'd get up the next day and I drive 6.5 hours to Kelowna, BC, to do the SmackDown taping. And I'm at the building and I'm walking around just kind of backstage, and Vince walks up to me. And he shakes my hand and he goes, "Really liked your work last night. Loved the way you sold. You look really good out there. We're going to get you another match tonight." And it blew my mind, right? So I go out and have another. I think I worked Stamboli that night and had another match. I mean, it probably wasn't a 5-star match, but I mean, it was a decent match. And Vince, the owner of the company, comes up to me and puts me over, and then Johnny Ace is like, "Yeah, we got nothing for you."
Yeah,
those are the things that kind of like, why am I doing this to myself? And not only that, like I flew myself there and did like the whatever. I mean, we all did it, but it's just like those were the things that was like starting to like, this isn't for me anymore.
And it'll chew you up. Like,
it does mentally. Yeah, it does. He was like, "Man, maybe I don't got it."
Right?
Yeah.
But and then the best cure is to just go out and fucking, become a top fucking draw for someone else. You know what I'm saying? It's like
it definitely lit a fire.
Yeah, and it's got to be. Sure. And imagine as you climb the ranks, up TNA, and as like that gradual movement, and then there became the point where like, oh, Bobby's our guy now,
right?
And like it must be self-satisfying. Be like, yeah, man, I'm a fucking like I know what wrestling is, but,
right?
Like,
yeah. No, I felt good. Like I mean, back in 2011, when they put the title on me, it was pretty gratifying, because I felt like, I guess in a way, like I mean, I like to think that I earned it, and I so definitely gratifying, especially with everything that like I kind of went through, and not like it was a bad thing that I went through or anything, but it was just like the mental struggle that I had trying to figure out my way through the business and stuff. But no, it was gratifying, and I have zero regrets. And the one thing that I did learn, like Jeff, like there was some times where I just felt kind of stalemate at TNA,
when you're there for 12 years.
Yeah, and I felt like, okay, well now this is my time to be put. When we broke up Team Canada, and it was like I was the hottest free agent, and it's a funny story because I was the hottest free agent in wrestling, and I interviewed all these great managers that wanted to take me under the ring, like Sensational Sherry and Bobby Heenan and Colonel Parker, and I picked Tracy Brooks. So. But I did that, and I was like, okay, this is my time. They're going to push me. But I mean, at the time, I'm thinking I'm ready, but maybe I wasn't. Maybe. So
well, as performers, we always
think that. Yeah.
When I was 22, I was ready to fucking main event WrestleMania.
Yeah, of course. But then they kind of pulled back the reins a little bit on that, and then they put James and I together, which kind of hit off. Of course, I mean, we had some success there, but I always felt like, man, when am I ever gonna? And then when it happened, it was like. I think the timing and everything was right. And the one thing that Jeff always told me was like, just be patient because the cream always rises to the top.
And this is Jeff Jarrett.
Jeff, yeah. He goes, the cream always rises to the top. Don't get down, blah, blah, blah. So I've always kept that in mind.
He's, and I know you're doing stuff with Global Force. And
I did his TVs for him.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird. And I had Jeff on the show, and like I think so highly of him, and everyone. There's some people I guess that don't like him, but like I don't know. I've never had any. He seems to be like a great dude.
Yeah, Jeff is always. I always see him kind of as a mentor.
Yeah.
To me, when he brought
You're not
me
the
in,
only one. There's a lot.
Yeah, he brought me in 2004 when nobody else, and saw something in me when nobody else did. And gave me a job, and it gave me an opportunity. So, and I always went to Jeff. Jeff and I became really good friends. And I became friends with his kids, and so yeah. I mean. Jeff, to me, I think he's a great guy.
That's it.
That's it.
Anything else I'm missing?
That was easy. No, I think that's it. I mean, I think we covered most of it.
Any messages you want to get out to the world?
Not really.
Okay, we don't have to.
I mean, if I do, I'll put it out on Twitter.
Yeah. And what's your Twitter again?
At Bobby Roode. Oh man, what is it?
I love this.
I
love this.
How social?
He's looking up on the phone.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
You're one of those guys.
Totally. This is how much I actually use Twitter. Okay, let me give it to you. At Real Bobby Roode.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm verified. Think about that.
Attaboy. And then still on Impact.
Yes, Impact Wrestling, Wednesday night on Destination America for now. Fight Network in Canada. So yeah.
Cool. Any other plugs?
That's it, man. That's it.
Thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.
All right.
All right, Bobby Roode was a pleasure to have on the show on this Thanksgiving Day. This was done probably a couple days before the Pop thing was announced. So go watch Impact Wrestling on Pop TV starting in January and support the wrestling that you like and the wrestlers that you like. All right, before we get out of here, let's get into some plugs and
Upcoming events.
All right, the best way you can support ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. I got those t-shirts and keychains that are up to ship for you. Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana, Facebook /AOW Podcast /Colt Cabana. Also, ColtWrestling@gmail.com is my very public email. CutMyPromo.com is my YouTube series. Kikutaro cuts one for next week. You'll really dig that one. ColtCabana.com is my website. I got a P.O. box there. Send me some snail mail. I like it. Some Hanukkah cards. Usually I get some Hanukkah cards, which I always laugh at and enjoy. Upcoming this Saturday, November 28th, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, WrestleCade.com. Sunday, November 29th, Providence, Rhode Island, Facebook /Beyond Wrestling. Friday, December 4th, Chicago, Illinois, FreelanceWrestling.com. We're doing a podcast before. Stay tuned to those guys because I know we had to move venues because the Abbey blew up in Chicago. There is a show. The diaries will go on moving forward. Saturday, December 5th, Cleveland, Ohio. Brooklyn, Ohio, actually. I wrestle Kikutaro. AIWrestling.com. Sunday, December 6th, Alton, Illinois, right outside St. Louis. PCWSWrestling.com. Saturday, December 12th, Brooklyn, New York, FightingSpiritWrestling.com. Should be an interesting one. December 19th through the 23rd, I'll be in Tokyo, Japan. Noah.co.jp or Noah in Google, and it will translate for you. Also, Noah is now on Instagram and Vine, and those are just fun for anyone. Anyone can understand that. You should follow him on that. There's some fun stuff there. Saturday, December 26th, I'm finishing out the year at Marionette Park, Illinois, AAWrestling.com. And Friday and Saturday, January 8th and 9th, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Facebook /First Wrestling. That's wrestling, girls, booze, and so much more for those guys. That's always a great show. This has been a great show. It's a great show this week. Thanksgiving, we're heading into the holiday season. Snow is starting to come, and we should all be thankful. Thank you, you. Thank you to you for listening. Thanks for telling somebody. Thanks to Bobby Roode. Thanks to Cable Guy Jeff and Stu Stone. Thanks to Kid Russell and Matt Jenkins on the music. Thank you to Dane Miller for all the tech that he's helped with. Let's thank our sponsors, highspots.com. Hundreds of full-length titles available to download, plus all the $5 wrestling titles. AMA knee pad, gear, masks, and more. I'm sure they have a crazy sale going on. Check out highspots.com. OneHourTees.com. They are working hard with ProWrestlingTees.com. They are churning it all out. Support your favorite wrestler and get a great deal this whole holiday season. Lots of sales over there. Grab yourself some shirts. Get a friend or family member a gift. And tweakedaudio.com/Colt, the earbuds that I use, get over 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. That's it for this week. Thanksgiving. I can only imagine the weirdness that will be going on at my mom's friend's house to where I'm invited. Sina. Is that a Jewish name or what? Sina. Going over to Sina's house. Gonna have some Thanksgiving and some matzah. I'll have a full report for you next week. But until then, enjoy yourself. All right, I gotta lay off this. I've been too weird about Thanksgiving. I brought it up too many times. But you're in it right now, so you get it. Fuck it. All right, this has been The Art of Wrestling. For Colt Cabana, I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks.